man. You really never know. Welcome in, Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. See, you never know what's going to be said before the show because it even distracted young Caden over there in the corner with how ridiculous of a saying was said in here. Not going to say by who. Looking in that corner over there. I'm Jeff Parles. Happy to be with you. It's a Friday, as always, here on Sports by the Book, which means it's a footballcontest.com Friday. And, of course, today's show always on Fridays brought to you by footballcontest.com. If you want to enter any Vegas football contest this summer, go with the pros at footballcontest.com. And, of course, experience matters. Visit proxy.footballcontest.com and use the promo code SBTB. That's promo code SBTB, as you see on your screen in front of you, for a special offer from Matt and Tony, the best in the business, footballcontest.com, getting you ready for your contest. Vegas Matty was in studio earlier this week. Joined us talking again. The Super Contest is open now for signups. Of course, Circa has always been rolling over the last 6 weeks or so. Survivor and Million, of course, the biggest prize pots they've ever had. So be on the lookout again. Footballcontest.com. Swoosh it. Let's go. There you go. Starting five. See, Sean has gotten so good at that, I don't even need to say anything else. That's all I need to say at this point. Number one today, the New York Yankees, who lost 2 out of 3 to Tampa, go to Baltimore, who were inexplicably swept by Ryan McCormick's Cubs. And not only that, the Orioles got pounded in that series, 21-2. Cubs annihilate the Orioles. Baltimore still with a 1.5 game lead on the Yankees in the East, but the Yankees are favored at Camden Yards tonight. Garrett Cole on the bump for the Yanks. It will be Cole Povich going for the Orioles. Don't call him Maury. As the O's again try to bounce back after really a disastrous series against the Cubs, who, as we've talked about on the show, have not been particularly impressive so far after the really good month of April. Number two, the Padres and the Braves. The Padres are actually on the outside looking in going into this weekend. The Mets, after their 3-game sweep of the Washington Nationals, actually now are percentage points ahead of San Diego for the final wild card, and the Mets swept San Diego in the 3-game series earlier in the year in Queens. Schwellenbach and Vasquez, your pitching matchup tonight for Atlanta and San Diego. Little action on San Diego for minus 125 to minus 118 on the Bravos. So a little bit of action on the homestanding Friars in that one. And then number three. Let's go to number three. 3 WNBA games today. And the headliner, the Seattle Storm. And how about this? Legitimately, as I'm talking, the entire market just moved from 7 to 6.5 on Seattle. So open 5.5 on the Storm to 7, and now legitimately the whole market goes 6.5 in the last 90 seconds. Very interesting that the whole market did it simultaneously. Total 154, pretty low total for a WNBA game between Minnesota and Seattle. Of course, Minnesota, the winner of the Commissioner Cup a little earlier in the month. And then number 4, the NBA Summer League begins here today in Las Vegas. 7 games to kick it off, including Bronny James making an appearance. There are lines behind us. I'll roll through them quickly. Orlando, 4-point favorites against Cleveland. Minnesota, 6-point favorites against New Orleans. Memphis, 3.5-point favorites against Sacramento. Houston, 6.5-point favorites against the Lakers. Indiana, 2.5-point favorites against the Nets. Washington, 5.5 against Atlanta. And then the Clippers and Nuggets, Denver, 2.5-point favorites. Again, these are not the same as your usual teams, as you know. Make sure you look at the rosters before making any bets on these games here in Las Vegas. Thomas and Mack, Cox Pavilion, the site as always for the NBA's Summer League. Number 5, who's on the show today? Well, Arash Markazi, Sporting Tribune. We'll talk a little Summer League. Arash has also been around town with all these college football media days. We'll get his takeaways. And also, too, maybe we'll get some thoughts on what happened with the Dodgers. Dodgers swept out of Philadelphia. And Jimmy Vaccaro in studio. Story time with Jimmy. We're going to start doing this over the next few weeks before football gets rolling on Fridays. Jimmy will come in. Whatever Jimmy wants to talk about, Jimmy will talk about. So we'll be looking forward to that at 9:40 on the show here today. And that's your starting five here on Sports by the Book. As always, here leading you into the show. Also, we'll be getting some football as well in a little bit. But first, let's talk some baseball. Let's go there. Final weekend before the All-Star game. Some news coming down this morning. And, I have to at least bring up the times I'm right because of the limited nature of how it happens here with that. Paul Skeens officially named the National League starting pitcher next week in Arlington. Likely, again, one inning. Probably will face Gunnar Henderson, Juan Soto, and Aaron Judge. I don't know about you guys out there, but that is reason enough to at least watch the first inning of the All-Star game. After that, go on with your night. But first inning, sounds good to me. We don't know who's starting for the American League yet. I have to imagine it's either going to be Corbin Burns or Tariq Skubal. Of course, it all depends on who pitches on Sunday and who does not. Of course, if they go on Sunday, not eligible to pitch in the All-Star game if a starter pitches on Sunday. Just the injury protection more so than anything. All right, to baseball we go. Let's start in Queens. How about that? The Mets. The New York Mets sweep the Washington Nationals. And entering the final weekend of the Major League Baseball's season's first half, which is not really the first half because most of the teams have played about 60% of their games. The New York Mets, who were 11 games under 500 a hearty 6 weeks ago, are in the number 3 wild card spot entering the weekend. They are percentage points ahead of San Diego, and they're ginormous favorites here today against Colorado. It's Gordon and Minaya. Minaya is a minus 260 favorite, total 8.5. We've talked about this with the Mets. The Mets offense leads the majors in runs over the last 6 weeks. Total's 8.5. Colorado team ERA, bottom feeder. Colorado's offense, even with the advantage of playing at Coors Field, bad, bottom 5 on offense. Most offensive numbers. Here's the problem with this game, at least from a regular betting perspective. By the way, Met team total would be the only way I would play it over 4.5. Okay with laying the juice. If we're going in a traditional sense, it's hard to look at this and justify betting this game over because of the Colorado side. By the way, Mets' first shutout of the year came yesterday, where they pitched it. They were the last team to do it. Very timely on punchlines. Legitimately, the Jay Cuda tweet goes out. The Mets complete the shutout 7 minutes later. It's almost like Ryan McCormick knows what he's doing producing-wise on that show. Almost. But I would look to a Met team total over here. And if you're the Mets, play Colorado here, and then you play 4 against Miami out of the All-Star break. Nice time to get fat and happy if you're the Mets here and try to extend the lead out potentially even in the wild card race with San Diego having a tough series against Atlanta coming up this weekend. Also, the Cardinals have a division rivalry series against the Cubs starting in St. Louis, which we'll actually get to right now, with Sonny Gray and Kyle Hendricks. Kyle Hendricks has been a little bit better. Still not the same. Cardinals at home here. Minus 190 on St. Louis at home. Total 8 on this. So, Sonny Gray has been the best pitcher here for the St. Louis Cardinals. He has been all year long. Now, Gray, if you just look at the way that this has gone, you can pull the Mets game from the bottom here, Sean. The way Gray has gone here over the month of June, very consistent other than that bad start against Cincinnati to end the month. He did not pitch well against Washington, even though the Cardinals ended up coming from behind and winning that game on July 5th. Kyle Hendricks has been better after the disastrous start to the season where his ERA was over 11. This would only be a lean to under 8. Now, it's going to be very hot in St. Louis. So you're going to have a little bit of wind. So it is a little bit of a worry if we're going under. And, of course, Hendricks, the potential to absolutely explode in a spot like this. By the way, Cubs sweeping Baltimore. Again, Chicago, I still expect to be a seller at the deadline. But with as we know, the congested nature of the National League playoff race, still in this thing. Only 3 games behind New York, entering today for that final wild card in the National League. Going up next, the Padres and the Braves. Talked about in the starting 5. Schwellenbach and Vasquez, your pitching matchup here. So the Braves open -125, actually. Down 7 cents to -118, plus 108 on San Diego here. 8.5 the total would be the only bet I look at. Now, I don't love these pitchers. And you are dealing with, again, mediocre starting pitchers. But Padres, losers of 4 in a row. Competition has gone up a little bit over the last few weeks. And this is no different. Mariners outscored them 10-3 in 2 games. Diamondbacks beat them 2 out of 3 in San Diego. This is a little bit of danger time here for the Padres. They also have a very difficult series out of the All-Star break where they go to Cleveland to take on the American League's best Cleveland Guardians. Be a lean to the under in this game for the Padres and Atlanta there. And again, one of the better pitchers' parks in baseball with the Padres and the Braves. To Tampa we go. The Rays take 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. They now take on the American League's best Cleveland Guardians. Now, this is an interesting handicap here. Arguably, Cleveland's worst starting pitcher goes today in Cookie Carrasco. Taj Bradley, who the market does like betting on, goes for Tampa. -127 on the Rays, who we know have been blah this year. Total finally moved from 8 after a whole bunch of jumbling on the juice. It just moved to 7.5 moments ago. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see an 8 again soon. 7.5 juiced over instead of the 8 juiced under. Taj Bradley this year. And recently, more importantly, he gave up 9 runs in 3 1/3 on June 1st. Since then, Bradley has not allowed more than 2 earned runs in a start. He's gone at least 5 in all of those starts. Tampa's 4-2 in said starts. One of those games they got shut out by Baltimore. The other one, bullpen blew it against Texas. Been much better for Bradley. Now, he's been pretty good since debuting on May 10th. He only has 2 starts if you do the whole season that he's allowed more than 2 earned runs. Carrasco's the issue here. Now, if you can find an 8 still, I would consider going under it. 7.5, you can't do it. There's 1 8 left in the market. It's at Circa. And as Tom said last week, Tom Viola, that is, of Unabated Sports, you may have to worry just a little bit if you happen to see that be the case, if Circa is the best number in the market. The Yankees and the Orioles. Garrett Cole Povich, about all the Coles here. -122 on the Yanks. 9 total. This is a complete and utter stay away for me, but we'll throw this out there. This is I know it's cliched. It's July 12th. Humongous series here. Both of these teams are not playing well right now. Yankees, well documented, worst record in baseball since June 17th. Can't score. Offense producing less than 3 runs a game in that time period. Orioles just got swept by a mediocre team at home, a last-place team at home. Both of these teams have allowed the Red Sox to get back into this. Red Sox are only 5.5 behind Baltimore now. They're within striking distance, the Red Sox, who took their care of their business against the Oakland A's at the beginning of this week. Very important series. No plays here today. I would be monitoring this to see how both of these teams look through this series. Because, again, the Yankees, at some point, you expect to turn it back on in Baltimore. And maybe that was just a bad 3 games against a not good Cubs team. Speaking of the Red Sox, they take on the Royals. This is a game we do not know the starting pitcher yet for Boston still. Undecided is even money at home against Cole Reagan's the best pitcher on the Royals staff. Entering today, the Boston Red Sox control the third wild card in the American League. This is a team with not a high win total. Both of these teams, not high win totals in the wild card race right now. Boston at 51-41, leading Kansas City by 1 game. So this is another one. 2 huge series in the American League playoff picture here. And again, we'll see who the starters have. Expected bullpen game for Boston, but still unknown who's going to start the game. It would be a lean to Kansas City first 5 would be the only thing I would look at here in this game. Wouldn't lay more than $1.20 on Cole Reagans and the Royals. The Battle of Texas, the Rangers go to Houston. As we know, the Astros, red hot over the last month. 2 games within Seattle now. This is kind of a make-or-break series for Texas. If Texas were to get swept this weekend at 8-9 out of the division, 6-7 out of the wild card, probably see Texas sell at the break. At the deadline, I should say. Pitching matchup in this one, Hunter Brown, Andrew Heaney, would be a lean to under 8, would be the only thing I would look at. Hunter Brown, other than his disastrous May, has been pretty darn good. And the Astros better against right-handed pitching than left-handed pitching. Would lean to the under. Would lean to the under here for Houston. And then one last baseball game I want to get. And that is the Twins and the Giants. Twins just going about their business here. 4.5 behind Cleveland. Only a game and a half behind the Yankees now. They throw Joe Ryan tonight in San Francisco. -140 on the Twins. Pretty good price. Even with Kyle Harrison going tonight, I would be looking at Minnesota laying that price. Giants are just very pedestrian, in all honesty. Very pedestrian baseball team at this rate. So really looking at Minnesota here -140. All right. Let's do this quickly here. Let's go to the NFC South. We'll have Arash Markazi in about six minutes from now. We don't even need the flaming football if you want. If you want to throw it on, I won't say no. But, see, Sean's on it. Sean's on it. All over it. We'll have Tampa Bay tomorrow. But just looking at New Orleans quickly here before we get to our friend Arash Markazi of the Sporting Tribune. This team last year ends up losing the NFC South on a tiebreaker. Tampa Bay ends up being the one who ends up winning the division, of course. New Orleans had the easiest schedule in the National Football League last year and ended up with 9 wins. This offseason, small moves more than anything. New backup quarterback, Jake Haener, moves up. Jameis Winston goes to Cleveland. Marcus Mayday losing the safety. Michael Thomas probably done at this point. Let's be real, unsigned. They signed Chase Young. They signed Cedric Wilson. They signed Willie Gay, a good linebacker from the Kansas City Chiefs. As you see on the right side of your screen, not much here in the way of awards. Carr's 151 to win the MVP. Olave 150 to 1 to win the Offensive Player of the Year. 50 to 1 on Dennis Allen. Not really much of anything here to be found in the awards category. Sean, if you can pull the schedule, we can go there here real quick. Chase Young, I do expect an impact year from him. Now, of course, working on 1-year contracts. There's New Orleans. You know, so you look at New Orleans' schedule. You open with Carolina, and then they play 4 brutal games in a row. At Dallas, Philadelphia, at Atlanta, at Kansas City. 1-4 squarely in play here for New Orleans. That win total at 7.5 feels right. The fact that they're plus 320 to win a division also feels right. You're in a scenario here with New Orleans where I don't like their coach. I think Dennis Allen is a bottom 5 NFL head coach. Derek Carr is the definition of average at this rate. Probably more below than above at this rate, at this time for Carr in his career. There's the contract situation with Alvin Kamara, where we're not even sure what that status will end up being by the time we get around to the season. You have a defense that I think is a little bit underrated, but I just don't think they're good enough on offense to get through those first 5 games better than 1-4. They might not be a bad team, though, to look at an alt-win total over. I don't think they're going to bottom out completely, but they're in a scenario where they're probably 7, maxing out at 8. An in-season total, if it dips to 5.5 after a bad start, may not be a bad look looking at that schedule. I mean, Denver and the Sean Payton reunion. Cleveland's a winnable home game. Raiders, they'll be favored against at home. Commanders, they'll be favored at home. There are some winnable games on the back end of that schedule, but they're probably his team I would look for an in-season over because of the bad start. 7.5 may just be hard to go under. If you can find a flat 8, I wouldn't mind doing that if you wanted to do it on New Orleans. I have a little more thoughts on these guys a little bit later in the show, and of course tomorrow we'll do the Bucks. Alex White is back as well. We'll also have the whole division on tomorrow's show. But we'll take a quick break right now. When we get back, Arash Markazi of the Sporting Tribune, man about Vegas. A lot going on this week here in town, and we'll also ask him about the hoopla around Bronny James and LeBron coming back, of course, to the Lakers on that short-term deal. We'll discuss it next with Arash Markazi here on Sports by the Book.
Have you always wanted to enter the biggest and best football contest in Las Vegas, but didn't know where to start and who to trust? Look no further than footballcontest.com to get the info you need to succeed, including breakdowns of the most popular and highest-paying football contests in the world, such as the Westgate Super Contest, Circus Sports Million, and Circus Survivor. Plus, find out how you can reserve the most trusted proxy in the business right now at footballcontest.com, as Maddie and Tony have been leading the way for over a decade with more than $10 million in winners during that time frame. All you need to do is find a way to get to Vegas sometime this summer and sign up for these football contests in person. Then let Maddie and Tony do the rest. They will submit your picks for you and help you focus on doing what you do best, picking winners. Don't miss out on the action this upcoming football season. Experience matters. So go with the pros at footballcontest.com. That's footballcontest.com.
Welcome back into a footballcontest.com Friday here on Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles. You just heard Frank Nicotero promoting our friends over at footballcontest.com. SBTB at footballcontest.com promo code if you want to go over there. Get a nice little treat for signing up for proxy service through Vegas Manny and Company at footballcontest.com. Now joining us, you see his work over at the Sporting Tribune. A man about both L.A. and Las Vegas, the two most important cities on the West Coast. Our good friend Arash Markazi with us right now. Arash, thanks for hanging out this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's begin. We met up at Big 12 Media Days. You were around town as well. Pac-12 had that weird open bar thing as well. I wish I'd honestly have been there. Would have been a one-off fun experience. Mountain West here this week as well. But I want to start with the Big 12 because whenever Brent Yormark speaks, there always seems to be some interesting things that come out of it. This week, it seemed to be that, hey, there's 16 isn't too many. Seemed to be a reprising thing that came up. And also the fact that, look, a commissioner of a league is going to do this, talking up the depth of this Big 12 this year, which was one thing that, to me, being there, as you were there as well, that was a common rhetoric of all these coaches that this league is going to be incredibly deep here in 2024.
I mean, the fact that Utah, right, coming from the Pac-12 over to the Big 12 is favored to win the conference this year. We are in a very unique time in college football, and I don't think the movement has stopped. Listen, with you touched on the Pac-12. There's two teams left. That's only going to be the case for another year or two. I think they're going to try to find a new home. Could be the Big 12. Could be somewhere else. But Brett Yormark has done such an amazing job with the Big 12. I mean, I wished as a longtime Pac-12 guy myself that he had been the commissioner of the Pac-12 because they would have gotten a TV deal. They would still be around today. But I thought they did an amazing job at Allegiant Stadium. I do think that they're going to try to plant some kind of flag in Las Vegas as well. I don't think it's a coincidence that the media day was here. I think whether it's the football championship game or the college basketball tournament, they're going to figure out a way to do something again here in Las Vegas.
I would be surprised if, and I have to double check what the deal is with AT&T Stadium in Arlington. I would not be surprised, like you said, within the next 5 years, a conference football championship game is here. That would make a whole lot of sense, especially if those Pac-12 editions of Arizona. I mean, my goodness, wouldn't shock a lot of people if Utah and Arizona play in Arlington this year. That one's very squarely in play this year, Arash.
And by the way, like those schools, as you know, love Las Vegas. When you look at the Pac-12, tournament when they have it here, I mean, if you got a U of A is there, it is a sea of red at T-Mobile. Certainly, also the case at Allegiant. I remember when it was Utah USC, that game was sold out, sea of red. So there's no doubt that they have a fan base here in Las Vegas, and as you guys well know, they're at the South Point. They're like people are looking for an excuse to come to Las Vegas.
Arash, I know they weren't here this week, but I just want to ask you about the two LA teams that, of course, are now playing in the Big Ten. Just the impact of everything. I know USC, the roster looks to be a little bit weaker. UCLA, it's a transition year. Deshaun Foster's first year, expected to be better by year 2, year 3, but just what do you think the impact of moving to the Big Ten and playing a schedule? USC's schedule is pretty difficult. UCLA's schedule is totally bonkers, including a trip to Death Valley and LSU. I mean, this could be a rough welcome to the Big Ten for both Los Angeles teams.
I mean, certainly for UCLA. Listen, I think they'll even admit the talent's not there, at least for this season. I know new head coach Deshaun Foster, does have a plan in place. He's a heck of a recruiter. So, but this is definitely going to be a transition year for UCLA. So I don't expect them to have a good season. USC, I mean, now you're with the big boys, no knock on the Pac-12, but when you look at their schedule, they go to the big house, they play Michigan, they play Penn State. This is going to be a very tough schedule for them. But that was sort of like the first, when we knew that college football was going to change forever, when USC and UCLA went to the Big Ten. So I do think USC will do well. I do really believe that this is a transition year for both programs. But UCLA in particular, again, UCLA had to go. This was a package deal. This is like way back in the day when the Dodgers and the Giants moved from New York to California. Like they kind of had to do it like as a tandem. UCLA right now is not ready for the Big Ten. I do expect them to struggle, but I am excited about what new head coach Deshaun Foster can do there.
Yeah, again, like you said, this is a transition. UCLA, look, if you go 3-9, okay, this was not supposed to be the best of seasons, but I look, former players, guys that maybe Deshaun Foster's kind of on the edge there of will these kids that he's recruiting remember him when he was playing for the Carolina Panthers. Right. But look, it's for USC. I know that the noise is always loud with Lincoln Riley. I just don't think that roster, Arash, is good enough in this conference, especially when you play Penn State at home. That kind of feels like the measuring stick game in early October, where if the Nittany Lions come to your house at the Coliseum and beat you, the team's probably going under a win total. And I don't think Lincoln Riley's going to have a hot seat for a long time, but there are going to be a lot of unhappy people in Los Angeles heading into a potential 2025 if it's a 7-5 for Lincoln Riley this year.
It's such a great point, but he has that incredible first season at USC where Caleb Williams wins the Heisman Trophy. They are a win at Allegiant Stadium against Utah. Like if they had won that game, they would have been in the college football playoff, and they followed that up with just an absolute dreadful season, a season where Caleb Williams was healthy. Caleb Williams was supposed to come back and win, be the first player in a long time to win back-to-back Heisman. So he's not on the hot seat, but I think people are looking at him saying, like, yes, great first year, but what now? And again, as you well know, with college football, it's like, what have you done for me lately? So if he now has back-to-back subpar seasons, again, I'm not saying that he's on the hot seat, but you cannot string, 3-4 subpar seasons when you're the head coach at USC.
Let's go to some basketball. Of course, the Summer League begins today here in Vegas. I know there will be a lot of eyeballs on Bronny James and company, but I want to start with the Clippers first, and then we'll work our way to the Lakers, because this is not a good offseason for the Clippers by any way that you put it. I think they catch a little bit of a break by the fact that everyone thought it was better that Kawhi doesn't play in the Olympics, no risk of injury. But you lose Paul George. you get in a scenario now where, again, you're now dealing with the second apron, which we'll get to with the Lakers. But going into the Intuit Dome, which looks like an all-class, unbelievable venue, this Clippers team, even with getting Harden back but losing George, this feels like this era of a potential championship. The Clippers completely whiffed.
I mean, Jeff, I thought for sure that at the very least, Kawhi and Paul George would open up the Intuit Dome. And the fact that Paul George is not here, the fact that they couldn't work out a sign and trade, the fact that because, again, Paul George is very transparent with his podcast, you really see the way that they whiffed on that. Again, I don't think he deserved a max contract. I do agree with the team that, but Paul George effectively laid out that he would have taken the Kawhi deal. They took their time on that. If they truly did give him a 2-year deal for 60, which is less than they gave to James Harden, that's a whiff. Because then at that point, it kind of, Paul George clearly, by the time that he left, did not want to be with the Clippers. So they don't look great. They don't look great in the fact that in how they negotiated. But again, when you look at that trade, and again, the Clippers will say, well, listen, we made that trade for Paul George to get Kawhi too. So you have to view it as a Kawhi and Paul George trade. The fact of the matter is that trade was just for Paul George. And look at the haul that Oklahoma got, right, with the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and all those draft picks. So this is a play-in tournament team, Jeff. I mean, this is a team that the last 3 seasons have either missed the playoffs or been bounced from the first round. And now they're going to, again, the Intuit Dome's amazing, $2 billion across the street from SoFi Stadium. They are going to open it up with a team that is probably a play-in tournament team.
100% agree with you. And if Kawhi gets hurt, it may not even be that. I mean, that's just the way it is. Again, I will say, I can't wait to get to that building. That building just looks unbelievable there right next to SoFi, as you mentioned. All right, to the Lakers. Not to go all ESPN here, Arash, but look, it is from a human interest story. It is an important story that LeBron James has hung around this long in his NBA career in order to, and we can argue on the merits of Bronny James being in the NBA, but I don't want to have that conversation. The fact that they're playing together, the fact that, again, we're going to see Bronny James, who I know is nursing a little bit of a knee injury at times here in Vegas. Just how do you think that dynamic ends up working out? And also, too, for the Lakers, where, got to think about this. This 2-year contract LeBron signed, this is probably it, where everyone is so used to 20-plus years of LeBron. This is the end. Let's be real with ourselves. Just, do the Lakers have the ability here, even with this new salary cap, a new head coach, do they have the ability to actually compete when this comes around next season here, Arash?
I mean, Jeff, the problem is they are one of 3 teams that did absolutely, when I say nothing, again, no signings, no trades or whatever, this was a play-in tournament team. And we just talked about that with the Clippers. It's a play-in tournament team. It's a team that lost in the first round. They lost in 5. And you run that back, like you can run it back if you're a championship team, right? You want to keep that core group together. To not make any significant changes to a play-in tournament team that lost in the first round is ridiculous to me. But I get that there's only so much that they can do when you have a LeBron James, to your point, a 2-year contract that probably will be it for him. He did confirm, despite the fact that the Olympics are in Los Angeles in 4 years, basically said, I don't anticipate playing. I'm going to probably retire before then. So, not saying that they can't do anything at some point prior to the season, but at this point, Jeff, I mean, if they were to do something, it would have to be sort of like a big trade, right? Where it's, maybe you package D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura and maybe a first-round pick, and you kind of swing for the fences. They've done that before. It hasn't worked out. Unfortunately, I don't think LeBron James will be on a championship contending team as is currently constructed. The way that this team is currently constructed, this is it, and I just don't see them competing.
Let's look at the Olympic team real quick here, Arash. Of course, they do their training camp always here in Vegas. Slow start against Canada, but the last 3 quarters they looked like the team you would have expected here. They are. I mean, you're laying $10, $15 in future markets on the U.S. to win gold. obviously, if it's not gold, it's a humongous disappointment. It does feel like the field around them is stronger, though, than usual. The Canadian team that we saw here a few days ago, very talented. France has Gobert and Wemby that you have to deal with on the inside. At least scoring might be hard against France. And even that first game against Serbia, I mean, you're facing the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic right out of the gate. Now, granted, the other two group games, I think the U.S. got pretty fortunate with their draws. Puerto Rico, South Sudan, they should be favored by 40-plus points in both of those games. But, it's just interesting now in this era of the Olympics where once we got past 2004, which was obviously the disaster bronze medal, Americans have won the gold every one since, and this should be no different with a team that, quite frankly, as talented of a team as I can remember for the American squad.
Exactly. What really stuck out to me in their victory against Canada here in Las Vegas was the defense. I mean, the defensive effort that they had, and if they can continue to play that way, I don't think it's a question that they win gold. I think they perhaps win all the games by a pretty wide margin. In fact, I mean, they went up against a Canadian team that I think is the second best, second deepest team. There's a lot of countries out there that have great, one player, right? Whether it's Luka Doncic or Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you go down the list. But Canada is a deep team. So for the fact that they beat them the way that they did, closed out the game strong, defense, I thought was the biggest thing there. To your point, I really do believe this is the most talented team, and you're going to always get pushback for the Dream Team in 1992. The only thing that I'll say about that team is that on paper, when you just look at the names, amazing. It's important to note that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson were effectively retired, and they came back to play in that play for the Dream Team. And also Christian Laettner, right? I mean, that was their first year with pro players, so the deal that they made was that we had to have one collegiate player. So, but this is different. This from 1 to 12, Jeff, I really do believe when you look at the way that they're currently playing in the league, including LeBron James, this is perhaps the most talented team that we have seen, I think, in the history of the, since the Dream Team.
Since they allowed the pros in 92. I mean, look, the only other one, 2012 was pretty darn good, too. But I'm with you. It's this team, the Dream Team 2012. Those are the three that you would look at. And before Kawhi was replaced, and no slight on Derek White, who's obviously had a tremendous year with the Celtics, I think it would have been this year's team. Now, a little bit, maybe, but it's pretty.
That's a good point.
Pretty darn close any way you slice it there. By the way, $7 you have to lay on the U.S. at most shops to win the gold medal. The women's team is minus 2,500, which makes more sense because that field is just pretty weak in comparison to the men's field behind the women's team, and also the women's team is just so absurdly stacked. It's not even funny. Yeah. Before we let you go, I do want to ask you actually real quickly about women's basketball because, of course, we've seen. Even before Caitlin Clark entered the league, we saw this city here in Vegas embrace it. Winning titles obviously helps, but even before they were winning titles, this city really embraced it. Now, of course, the whole country embracing the WNBA more. Ratings are up, especially in those Indiana games. Just in LA, I know it's been a rough go of it for the Sparks, and it was supposed to be a transition year. Unfortunately, Cameron Brink with the significant knee injury knocked her out for the year. But just what is the impact of the league getting a higher profile been on just LA and the WNBA here, Arash?
To your point, when Cameron Brink was playing, I think a lot of people were getting excited about that team. Again, they had two of the top 5 picks in Cameron Brink. Rukia Jackson sold out. It was the largest, highest attended Sparks game when Caitlin Clark came. They sold out the lower bowl when Las Vegas came to town. So the attendance has been fantastic. They will probably be the worst team in the league this season again after Cameron Brink went down for the season. They have really struggled. They did beat Las Vegas at home. That was fantastic. But I don't think it's a bad thing for them to be the worst team in the league. Why? Because they could potentially get Paige Buckets from UConn will be the top pick. So if they can find a way to get her, include her with a team that has Cameron Brink, has Rukia Jackson, you could be talking about a contending team. So, those games are fantastic. And I'm just so happy that the league is at a point where games are being sold out in Las Vegas. And it's not just because of Caitlin Clark. The fact that Las Vegas sold out of all 20 of their home games is incredible.
Again, this city, Las Vegas, has embraced the Aces, and winning helps a little bit for sure. But again, the Aces are incredibly talented, as we know. Arash Markazi, of course, you can find his work, Sporting Tribune, on the tweets at his name, at Arash Markazi. Arash, thanks for hanging with us. Stay cool. I know you're in town, so stay cool. I know it's just ridiculously hot here this last week plus.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Absolutely. Arash Markazi, everyone. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, the legendary Jimmy Vaccaro steps in, and whatever Jimmy wants to talk about, we will talk about here today. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Have you always wanted to enter the biggest and best football contests in Las Vegas, but didn't know where to start and who to trust? Look no further than footballcontest.com to get the info you need to succeed, including breakdowns of the most popular and highest-paying football contests in the world, such as the Westgate Super Contest, Circa Sports Million, and Circa Survivor. Plus, find out how you can reserve the most trusted proxy in the business right now at footballcontest.com, as Maddie and Tony have been leading the way for over a decade with more than $10 million in winners during that time frame. All you need to do is find a way to get to Vegas sometime this summer and sign up for these football contests in person. Then let Maddie and Tony do the rest. They will submit your picks for you and help you focus on doing what you do best, picking winners. Don't miss out on the action this upcoming football season. Experience matters. So go with the pros at footballcontest.com. That's footballcontest.com.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Friday edition, of course, footballcontest.com providing the show here today. Now joining us, and we're going to see him on Fridays more often now. Good friend Jimmy Vaccaro in the studio. Jimmy, it's good to see you.
It's a pleasure to be here. And before we start, let me say thank you for all you guys who've been doing this radio at this South Point for a few years now. And I get a lot of people coming up to me and say, Jimmy, great job. They do this. I said, it's not me. I said, what you guys and Chris and Vinny and everybody here has done, it's projected that thing into I would consider the best gambling show on the radio, on television, wherever you want to go. I get a lot of credit from it, but I tell them immediately where it came from because it's a new generation of the way we do business here. And naturally, one of the guys that pushed it forward is Michael Gahn, the guy that actually, spent $900,000 building a studio. But it's all worth it. So here I am. I have a lot of fun. Hopefully I can do this for quite a long time. But quickly, I'm here with my friend Ralph Sirocco, who's been around a long time. But I think there's only a few left who's actually working in this race and sportsbook in the 70s. I happen to be one of them because, we had the Royal Inn Casino, which was the first casino that Michael Gahn opened up. So here it is, and so much has changed in the race and sports industry that I'm still juiced up when we talk about it. So anything you want to do, my friend.
Well, even you've mentioned in the past, even just look at 5 years ago versus now.
Yes.
Forget going 20, 30, 5 years ago. It's
Right.
a totally different ball game than it is now.
And I know you were going to throw this at me. Yes, was at the Mirage last week, and it was incredible. I was with my girl, Yolanda Acuna, who was she was the girl that did all the work. I took all the credit, but she did. So we're down there, we're in the Mirage, and obviously it's little, even as crumbly as I can get. It was oh my goodness, can you imagine? Only 34 years ago that the place was open. I was one of the lucky people standing out front of the Mirage with Steve Wynn making his. First of all, Steve is the greatest casino operator in the world, the way he designed these new things. What he did at the Mirage, he set the stage for everybody else after that to open up casinos and actually draw it down personally. So we were there, and Steve was doing all his welcoming, and then all of a sudden the car pulls up, and all of a sudden they open the door. There's Roy from Siegfried and Roy. He's got one of the tigers on a leash. I says, what the hell is going on here? So I kept backed up a little bit. But what they did was very, very unique. They got the tiger, and they had a little pad. They put his paw up there, and they hit it on the thing, so it looked like he was the first person who took a room for the night. So it was incredible what he did it. But that was a Steve Wynn thought process. He did it all. So fortunate in there, and but I'll tell you what, it still was the best ever, but obviously it's gone to. We ate at the California Pizza Kitchen. That was the place. Everybody wanted to go. I was asked more comps from the CPK than I've ever asked before, but it was worth it. And the general manager of the Mirage, who is running it right now, I guess till they close, they picked up the check. We ate lunch, so it was nice. It was a nice feel going back. One quick thing. So it's about 3:00 in the afternoon, and I get a call from Yolanda. She said, Mr. Wynn wants to see you. I said, well, what could I do now? What did I do wrong? I go up there. Everybody was in his office, and it was the phone rang, and I could see Steve talking to somebody, and then for a few minutes, then he got on the phone. He said this. He said, listen to this, guys. He said, that was just someone, a commissioner or someone from the police, whatever, help clear the street because there were so many people, so many cars in front of the Mirage, you couldn't move either way. So Steve hangs up the phone, goes like this. Yeah, I'm going to tell them, don't come in front of the Mirage anymore. So it was a unique day, had a lot of fun, and I've had a lot of fun. Can you believe January, I start my 50th year in Las Vegas?
Wow. No,
long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
You remember day one?
Yes, quite memorable. I can remember then Steve was waltzing a lot of people around. They stopped in front of me where this race and sportsbook was, and he come up to me behind me and said, Jimmy, I only want one thing out of you. I said, yes, Steve, whatever you want. I said, I don't want anybody having to leave here and not having a bet that they wanted. I said, that was perfect for me. Tell someone like me, you have carte blanche, do what you want to do. Had many, many memorable moments, I can't tell you, in the boxing fights and everything else. I was fortunate, very fortunate.
What about day one for you in Las Vegas, Jimmy?
What's that?
Day one for you in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
We're on 50 years.
Yeah, I moved here. That was it. And Michael Gahn again. Are you ready? So I'm here for 2 weeks. I go to dealer school. I figured I wanted to get inside. I had to get inside the casino, see how it worked, whatever. I'd been here numerous times, but I never left Trafford to be here permanently. And so I figured, let me just go. I heard this guy, Michael Gahn, his dad owned half the places downtown. I said, let me just ask him if he could get me a job. I go to his office, and cutting the story short, it was he sent me down to the dealer school. And when he got on the line with the guys who were downtown, he said, I got a young kid here. He wants to learn how to deal 21. He said, it's only $250. He said, okay, take care of it. And so he says, okay, Jimmy, it's only $250. I said, Mr. Gahn, I don't have any money. He says, what, you come up here, you're asking for a job, and you don't have any money? I said, yeah. He called down the dealer school again. He said, the guy ain't got any money. He'll pay you when he gets you. Opened up Michael's first little casino, the Royal Inn, then the Barbary Coast, which was an absolute skyrocket. I mean, you couldn't believe how many people would come in there, especially in the fight. So, again, so there I am. I look like the big shot, but I had a lot of great moments there. There's no doubt with Michael. And still, here it is. 50 years later, I'm back, and I'm basically working for him again.
Just pivoting back to the Mirage, because the impact that property had on what modern Vegas has turned into, for better or worse, whatever way people want to look at it.
Right.
Just because it was the first of the mega resorts on the Strip, and it is pretty surreal. And I can't imagine from your perspective, at least even from mine, just first time you come to Vegas at any age, you go in there, you see the little atrium, you see. I was when I was here the first time, I was actually able to see Siegfried and Roy before the incident had happened.
Yeah.
But it just is pretty amazing where you see that property going away. It just feels surreal more so than anything.
Understand it. Again, surely I'm not the guy who's paying the bills who bought the Mirage, but I would have just left the place alone. I mean, you couldn't move every day.
It's still nice.
And quickly, 1964, I was 18 years old. I went to the downtown Trafford, Pennsylvania, and I said, come on, I want to go see Las Vegas. And three of my posse said, are you crazy? I said, no. They said, okay. Drove my 56 Chevy from Trafford to California, and when we came back, we stopped in Las Vegas. And so I was there. I was 18 years old. They were filming to some degree the last part of Viva Las Vegas down at the Sahara. Yeah. So there we were, and whatever. So here it is, all these years later, the first place I came to as a kid. I had to see Las Vegas. I was 18 years old, so I was a little nutty then. So it all worked out pretty well.
That's pretty awesome. How did the car hold up the whole drive?
How'd the what?
How'd the car hold up the whole drive?
It's 56 Chevy, stick shift, baby. Show my age here. Everybody.
It's a long drive.
If you had a 56, 3 on the column, right? That's right. So, a lot of moments. Quickly with me, it's just like people say, Jimmy, what was the most exciting? I said, well, there were so many of them. I mean, I can still see Buster Douglas, winning that fight.
Oh, yeah.
I can see a guy betting $420,000 to win $10,000 on Tyson about an hour before the fight started. And those things, Brian Maloney, the guy from who stole all the money from the bank in Canada, would bring it down here. And he was betting between $500,000 and $700,000 a day when he came. And then the producer, Jim Toback, he was betting $1 million a day. So I've had my share of, and it was always good to be a part of it. But now the ball was carried over, and Chris and the guys here, a wonderful job. Look for a lot of new things that's coming out here, because quickly I'll get rid of you here. It's a new era from what I was part of, like way back when in the 70s and the 80s. You keep progressing. You got to do more and more and more to keep up with the time. It is completely moving this way. So some good, some bad, according to some people. But get ready, because we'll have a lot of new things also for here.
I just want to ask you real quick, Jimmy, just because it's July 12th. Football's on everyone's mind. We're less than 2 months away from both college and the NFL starting up here. From a college football perspective, obviously it is so completely different than even 20 years ago. Forget 35, 40 years ago. Just for college football alone, what has been the biggest change over the years that has stood out to you? Because obviously there are a lot of things, so many more teams, the fact that every game's on television now, there are so many things that have changed over the years.
Well, simply with the college, remember, that was like for every $1 we took a bet on college, we had $3 or $4 on the pros. It was like laying 4 to 1. Now, college may be passing them up after this way with this new conferences. And these games are just like so good to have early on. They just keep catching up. And remember also, you come here at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they started with the early college football. Now it's 8:30 at night, and here comes USC trotting onto the field. So you have business all the entire game. But let's give everybody else credit too. The NFL, like they're playing all over the world now with all these games. So it has changed. And you, like any other business, please listen to me. It's like a complete new way of doing business. So what we do is like have to keep progressing also. If you don't, you get left in the dust. And I think we won't get left in the dust.
Well, I'm happy you brought up those early games. I mean, Clemson, Georgia, right out of the gate.
Goodness.
I mean, my goodness. I mean, Clemson, Georgia on the first Saturday of the college football season.
Unbelievable. So here it is, and it just draws more attention. The better the games are. I think that Chris was showing me some of his future stuff he put up there. It was like 1 week. It's Ohio State goes to Oregon.
Yeah.
See, that wouldn't have happened.
That's a conference game now, Jimmy.
Monster. That's like a mini Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about it. But,
Yeah, I mean, look, like in the past, like that last week of the season, Michigan plays Ohio State. Texas played Texas A&M, which we actually are getting that again. Like there were all those major games. Now you're right. I mean, with these new conferences, I mean, Oregon, Ohio State, to me, I have them in my
make
own,
a number.
Oh, or Oregon small, Oregon 2.5, Oregon 3,
wow.
something small.
Okay, all right.
I have Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Oregon 3, but it's very close right now in my rating.
It's just like this. Let's switch to college basketball for a second. We used to start booking college basketball in January. Now we put it up early November. I mean, that's how important these things are. Think about it. And they're expanding all the playoff systems. I mean, just what did they wait for? I don't know all these years, but I know we're catching up to the rest of the world on how to book. I'm telling you the truth. It's going to get bigger and bigger. This will be the biggest year booking college football than we've ever seen. Make no mistake about it. Coming from me.
I agree. I think and you brought it up, the nature of these new conferences.
Oh, yes.
It's just going to produce so many, and it's also the first year of the 12-team college football playoff, which I think might actually, I'm curious to see how behind the counter it's handled, where late season games may look a little bit different now. How do we price? Again, obviously you go up the regular numbers, but pricing even the playoff games are going to be a lot different than people are used to in December, because the first round is their home games.
Now people can't like holler and scream and bitch about, hey, my guy didn't make it. How come he didn't get picked? Well, now there's an extra 2 or 3 games.
Jimmy, people will complain regardless.
Yeah, you're right. I always point to the end of the counter. Go see that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I ain't got a clue.
We're going to see Jimmy every Friday in here moving forward. Always love talking to you. Treasure trove of stories as well.
Quickly, what I'll do is bring things up to like we'll talk about, because obviously with the point spreads, Vinny and Chris, and they all do that. Maybe I can help people getting a feel like what it really was like. The
Absolutely.
Things have changed, whatever. So see you next Friday.
See you next Friday. Jimmy Vaccaro, everyone. Before we get out of here today, let's check in with our good friend Ryan McCormick, who's producing punchlines as he always does. I apologize to Ann, who's not here right now, for having that tiny Luis Gonzalez bobblehead that was smaller than my phone.
She had to super zoom into.
Impressive camera work by Ann to even see it. But Ryan, what's up on punchlines here today on a Friday?
Well, first I just want to say it's always awesome listening to Jimmy. He is such a fun.
Jimmy's the best.
Such a fun guy. Anyway, coming up on punchlines, we've got our very own Chris Andrews, the director of the sportsbook here at the South Point, coming onto the show. And then Frank and I will be going over some good posts with punchlines, looking at some Hall of Fame stuff in the NFL, as well as a softball Hall of Famer, one of the best softball Hall of pitchers of all time. Her son's a high school baseball player, could be a pretty good prospect going forward. And then some other things in the sporting world that you'll want to tune in at noon for.
I won't spoil it because I know who you're talking about, but the fact that she happens to have a kid in high school is kind of frightening. Just whoa, just remember how dominant she was when she was playing, and now have a kid who's in high school. Wow, that's pretty crazy in its own right. So be on the lookout for that noon, as always.
Yep.
Punchlines. Tomorrow on the show, Alex White returns. We look at the Bucks. We look at the NFC South. We look at a Saturday in the WNBA and Major League Baseball as well. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again. Big thanks to Jimmy. Big thanks to Arash Markazi for hopping on with us today. We'll see you again tomorrow, 9 a.m. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.